This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
Well, holy crap, that was a voyage. I am happy to report to you, Greg, and everybody else. I don't know how many people actually care, but I am in Foxborough. I'm in Massachusetts. I'm about 15 minutes away from Gillette Stadium after making a 3,000-plus mile trip across the country. I don't want to go through all the cities and towns that I went through. It was 11 days. I drove every second. My better half took care of the dog in the backseat, which was a nightmare. It was a long trip, Greg, but I am here. We are in the same time zone. I apologize if there are any audio issues. If you're watching the video, obviously my lovely hotel room that I'm currently staying in, not very palatial, not beautiful, but it is what it is. I'm alive, I'm well, I'm here, and I'm ready to talk Patriots. But before we get into that, I want to remind everybody, this episode brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. That's CLNS Media Network. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. And, of course, our friends at AG1, a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients to support whole body health in one delicious daily drink. And thanks to AG1 for not forcing me to say the word adaptogens every time I have that read. So that's very, very much appreciated. So what we're going to do here, Greg, is I've been sitting back. I've been going across the country every day, reading notes from you and others, paying attention on Twitter every single night, making sure I'm keeping track of exactly what's going on in Patriots world. And I'm just going to fire some questions at you. 12 practices that we've had. We're now getting ready, of course. We're taping this on Wednesday afternoon. So tomorrow night at Gillette is the first preseason game. We don't anticipate seeing many starters out there, especially on the offensive side. But I think the first question that I'm going to start with, and it's the question that everybody starts with, is Mac Jones. He's the guy we've been paying attention to. Just your thoughts on his progression within this offense, Greg, what you've seen practice 1 to practice 12, and how you feel going into tomorrow's first preseason game about QB1.
By the way, I love having you back on the East Coast, and I love sort of doing this format where it's a little bit like fact or fiction, because there's a lot of stuff out there about the team. I'm sure a lot of people have read. I've been at all the practices. You know, is this true? Is this true about this player? Like, you know, let's get into it. So on Mac Jones, what I would say about Mac is I would say he's much comfortable in the offense, in this iteration of the offense with Bill O'Brien. According to the caller who called in yesterday, I can't call him Billy, even though everybody calls him Billy around the team, because it differentiates between Bill Belichick and Billy O'Brien. So anyways, very comfortable with the offense. It gets them in and out of plays really well, doing the checks at the line of scrimmage. You know, I think that he's been under a lot of pressure in camp, as has Bailey, in terms of just pressure from the pass rush, because the offensive line is in shambles. I know Michael Felger, maybe I left out a word, but he was, at least on NBC Sports Boston, they were saying that I was saying the offense was in shambles. I think I wrote offensive line was in shambles, which it is. I mean, really, you know, David Andrews was out one day at practice. That meant that there were no real starters on the offensive line. I mean, you could sort of count Connor McDermott at right tackle, since it looks like he's going to start, but he's not a real starter. He's not an NFL starter. He's a Patriots starter, and that doesn't really count in my eyes. But, you know, he's been efficient with the offense. He's comfortable with the offense. You could tell he has a different energy this year. It's good. I am just, at this point, I'm concerned about, the pressure, which I'm hopeful that will solve itself as guys come off and get healthy and get back in the lineup, because I do think they have a good offensive line. Even if right tackle's a disaster, I still think they have the potential to have the best offensive line in the division. But there's a distinct lack of downfield plays. They're, you know, really the only plays that Mac Jones or really even Bailey Zappi make down the field are the occasional 50-50 jump ball shot plays to, you know, Devontae Parker. Mac has missed with Kendrick Bourne a couple times and Mike Gesicki a couple times, like just missed. So the timing quite isn't there yet, which, you know, is fine. There's plenty of time to get ready. But I just look at it compared to, like, I watched the Jets Hard Knocks last night, and what they're doing down the field and big plays and guys that just like get off the ball, and it's just the Patriots just aren't there. They run a different, it's like a different record speed. It's just slower. They're slow. There aren't that many explosive plays. It looks like they're going to depend on scheme and sort of slip screens, deceptive plays, things like that to get them their big plays. So far on Mac Jones, good. I like what I see. He's making progress. I just want to see, heading into the season with the joint practices over the next couple of weeks, I want to see them start pushing the ball down the field and start getting a little bit more aggressive, because right now it's shot plays and passes in the flat or quick games. And I'm sorry, but you just can't run an NFL offense like that anymore.
You mentioned the offensive line, you mentioned the pressure, and obviously anybody reading about this training camp period and what this team has looked like, man, I got to tell you, the biggest issue seems rather obvious, and the biggest issue is the offensive line. And you and I talked about this before training camp began. We talked about this before mandatory minicamp. We talked about this after the draft, before the draft. We talked about this at the end of the season. Offensive tackle was the biggest question to us when you looked at this roster. Trent Brown seems like when he's able to get out there, he's got a minor injury according to him he's dealing with. He seems like he's okay right now and he's on solid ground. Right tackle seems to be scattered from what I read. McDermott's gotten some looks. Riley Reif has gotten some looks. Obviously, Calvin Anderson, we know he's on the non-football injury list with an illness. Don't know what's going on with him. I ask you first, Greg, that right side, right tackle, to you right now after 12 practices, who's the guy who starts week 1 right now at that spot?
As of right now, it's Connor McDermott. But I will say that I think Riley Reif has improved over the past about week. He's done a pretty good job in one-on-ones, probably better than Connor McDermott has. It's just in team periods, Riley Reif has been rough. I don't see much difference between the two of them. I think both of them have a distinct lack of foot speed on the right side, and that's problematic. I think that once Trent Brown comes back, that frees up a little bit more of a competition. Riley Reif has to play a lot of left tackle. We even saw Connor McDermott yesterday at left tackle, I think in preparation for Thursday night's game. I think we could see him there. But yeah, I'm pretty concerned about right tackle. But then again, where I've been the whole offseason, as long as they're solid at the other 4 spots, you can deal with right tackle and you can solve it and deal with the weaknesses and all that stuff. And hopefully they'll get to that point.
Well, of course, that leads us to the other 4 spots. We mentioned Trent Brown, so we handle the tackle position. That's kind of slid to the side. Interior offensive line. David Andrews came back. Looked like that was a load management day he took the other day. He's back. He looks like he's ready to go. Owenu obviously is still not out there. Cole Strains gets injured, several practices back. He has yet to go out there since that injury. You've got a bunch of guys. You got Chase and Hines, who has shown some flashes I've read from time to time. You have Antonio Mafi, who has shown some flashes from time to time. I was reading, I believe you, Greg, this week, and you mentioned Mafi in the same sentence as Owenu, as maybe that kind of guy who, mid to late round pick who might be perfect for this team on the offensive line. So when we look interior O-line, Greg, do you feel as good about that little area, those 3 positions, right now as you did, let's say, 3 weeks ago?
It depends on the health of Strange and Owenu. I do think I don't think that Strange's injury is major. It could be up until the season opener. It could be one of those meniscus things where you get a little tweak and you're out for like a month. And but I thought he was looking improved, but before he went out, as long as Strange, Andrews, and Owenu are out there and healthy, I feel great about the interior. Now, just to give you a quick synopsis of the young guys, I would say that Mafi is by far the best of the younger guys that they brought in. So, Jake Andrews, the center / guard, was the higher pick. He's been very inconsistent. Some days he looks really good. Other days he looks really bad. He's had a rough time in one-on-ones. I think that Sidy Sow at right tackle, he's only been at right tackle, I think. He's played a little left tackle. I don't think he's been at guard. He's struggled. He's basically sort of like third string at this point. So, do they think about kicking him inside? I think they're fine on the interior. I think that, Andrews has underwhelmed. I think Mafi's been pretty good. He reminds you of a young Michael Winu, sort of same body type, maybe not as tall or not quite as wide as a Winu, but similar player. I like what I've seen out of him. They put him at different spots in the interior. I think I've even seen him take center snaps at one point. I think that Bill Murray was a guy who flashed early without pads. He was starting at right guard. As soon as pads went on, that went quickly downhill, and he hasn't been out there in a few days, hasn't participated in any drills. So, he's dealing with an injury. I think James Ferentz has had another really good camp, and you'd feel really good about him as a veteran backup at both center and guard. Cody Russi has gotten a lot of looks at starting right guard. Haven't been overly impressed with that. He got absolutely destroyed by Christian Barmore in a one-on-one rep the other day where Barmore gave him the reversed hump, Reggie Williams style, and just like tossed him on his back. It was freaking awesome. So, and nothing against Russi. Barmore can do that to a lot of really good players. But so that's sort of the state of the interior line. If the three starters are there, I'm good with what they have and their depth. If some of these guys got to start for, Strange or a Wenu, it gets a little dicey inside.
All right, before we get to wide receiver, before we get to many other things about the first 12 practices of this camp, I do want to ask you one more question offensively, and that's running back. The last time I think you and I spoke, Leonard Fournette was getting a workout with the team. Of course, they brought in Ezekiel Elliott for a visit. He went out to dinner with Mac Jones. Might have or might not have gone to the encore later on that night. So he had some fun and hung out a little bit. Is it obvious, Greg, still right now that this team needs a legitimate veteran as that number 2 back, maybe a goal line guy, to just make sure that the tread doesn't get too tough for Ramondre this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we could easily say that, and you probably wouldn't be wrong. Again, I think this is another case of the offensive line, the state that it's in. It's tough to tell. I'll just say, like, off the hoof, just glancing at these guys, and I haven't been overly impressed with Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong. Now, again, that could be the offensive line. I'm not sure. I probably would feel better if they had some sort of veteran running back to take some of the load. Do I necessarily think they're definitely going to do that? No, but I think it would probably be the wise thing to do. I mean, I just don't think outside of Stevenson that their running back group as a whole has been very impressive in this camp. But again, it's tough to tell with the offensive line. I do think this is a case, and this is going to be and even on Felger and Maz the other day, I've said the same thing. Like, I'm really waiting for these joint practices, and I think the team is. I think they might be holding out some of these guys with quote-unquote injuries to get to those practices, because I think we'll start to get a lot more answers on this team against the Packers and the Titans the next couple of weeks. But, as of right now, yeah, I think they need a veteran running back, and I think the Patriots aren't in any rush. They're waiting for the price tag to come down or what have you, and I also don't think somebody like Ezekiel Elliott is any hurry to get into camp and get beat up. So it could be a thing where, right after cutdown day with 10 days before the season opener, they bring a guy in.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are looking at this. They're saying, all right, well, Dallas might need somebody behind Pollard maybe. You look at the Saints, they brought in Kareem Hunt yesterday. They're looking around the running back position. We know the Jets brought in Dalvin Cook, and the Dolphins have kind of kicked the tires as well. Seems to be 3 or 4 teams looking for a veteran running back right now, the Pats being one of those teams. And if Belichick is comfortable with any of the 3 or 4 guys, Cook, Elliott, Fournette, maybe Henderson, who they brought in for a workout, Maybe they don't see a huge difference between those 3 or 4 guys, and they say, hey, whoever's left, we'll take them. Because
don't forget Rex Burkhead's out there too.
Oh, yeah. Sexy Rexy is still out there. But maybe Belichick's just looking at it and saying, screw it. Like, there's not a huge amount of difference between those guys. And the last guy, whether it's, Elliott or Fournette or Henderson, they're going to come in for our price. So we'll wait it out. And whoever we get, because it's not the end of the world. We got Ramondre as the number 1 guy anyway. All right, before we get to receiver, because I have a question for Greg. I want to know something, but thinking about this for the last few days, I think the steam has picked up about the wide receiver position and a certain question about the position. But before we get to that, let's talk about our friends from FanDuel.
Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/Boston.
All right, Greg. So what I've read, Tyquan Thornton hasn't been great. Maybe a little bit better, slightly better the last few days, but he hasn't been good. Let's not go crazy. He just hasn't been good. It's been almost a waste of a camp for him. Kendrick Bourne, slow start, has been better lately. Devontae Parker, you mentioned this earlier. He's been the jump ball guy. He's made some plays. Can they push the right buttons to get that out of him week after week? We'll have to wait and see. And then you've got, several other guys who are kind of popping in, no pun intended. Pop Douglas has really kind of stolen the headlines of this training camp. And then Kayshon Boutte, who was on the back of a milk carton the first few practices. He seems like he's kind of picking it up a little bit, and he's made some tremendous catches. When you start to look at this roster composition, Greg, I think one of the biggest questions right now about this team is how many receivers are they going to carry? Are they going to carry 6 guys? Are they going to say, hey, look, Tyquan, you haven't done enough. We're going to put you on the IR. You're done for this year. Maybe year 3 will be the year that you show up something to us. Will they try to sneak Boutte or Pop Douglas, through waivers and get them on the practice squad? Do you think it's possible, probable, whatever word you want to attach to it, 6 receivers on this roster week 1?
I have a hard time seeing 6 receivers on the roster. I mean, just the way the numbers work. I mean, in my mind, so in my last 53, and I'll do one probably at some point this weekend after the preseason game, I had 23 guys on offense, 23 guys on defense. I have 7 guys on special teams. There's, just to give you an idea, right now I have Cody Davis on, and he's on one of the injury lists, but there's this guy, Jordan Heelig, this linebacker from App State, who's basically practicing with Matthew Slater the whole practice. Like, this guy is going to be on the roster. So this is another special teams spot, and this all comes into play. So I have them with 5 wide receivers. I have Parker, Smith-Schuster, Bourne, Thornton, Douglas. I have 3 tight ends on the team, Henry Gesicki and Matt Sokol. How they're going to use the tight ends, I mean, I wouldn't rule out 4 tight ends on this team. So, you just get into a numbers, would you like to keep one of these guys? I mean, maybe. I mean, look, Kayshon has been he's improved. He certainly has. He got off to a rough start, like you said. He's been better. He makes spectacular catches now and then, which is really nice to see. He's sort of the anti-Tyquan Thornton who, Kayshon has natural receiving ability and Tyquan doesn't. It looks like he was sort of made up in a lab to be a receiver, where he's kind of robotic, fast as hell, love his speed on the field. They need it. I don't think they can afford not to have Tyquan Thornton on the roster just from a speed perspective. But Boutte he's a possession receiver. He is not a burner. He's not explosive. I would say he's Chris Carter-esque, not as tall as Chris Carter, but
Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, I would say something like that. So, do I think he has value? Yeah. Here's the thing with Booty when it comes to the roster. So many teams had him off the board for his off-field issues at LSU. Are people really, after one training camp, going to be clamoring for him to first of all claim them on their 53-man roster? I don't see that. I would guess at the end of the day, the Patriots feel good that they can get him to the practice squad. And if somebody comes looking for him later, then you think about promoting him. But right now, I'm going with the 5, and that includes Thornton and definitely Douglas. Douglas is definitely making this team.
Yeah, I mean, every single day, there's something written about Demario Douglas, and I think he's that perfect fit. You and I talked about this after the draft. Could you find a guy who could be the gadget guy, the quick, kind of receiver in small spaces and all that, the phone booth kind of dude who can shake and got some wiggle at the offensive line to kind of at the line of scrimmage to get them going a little bit. Marcus Jones provided a little bit of that last year. I don't like the idea of playing Marcus on both sides of the football. I don't like playing him in all three phases. He's not the biggest dude in the world. I think you're just asking for a disaster to play out for Marcus. So Douglas is on this team. I agree with you. It'd be a shock. It'd be, aside from injury, it'd be a shock if that young man doesn't make this football team. I will say that you are one of the guys that have been pointing this out. And when we have these conversations, I think when we talk about special teams and Davis and Heelig and Board and Slater and everybody under the sun, just
Schooler.
7, 8, 9 guys that you want to carry. This is when it matters, because sometimes when we have those conversations, people's their eyes kind of roll up in the back of their heads to go special teams, or you have the other people that say all three phases of the game. As we've talked about, special teams has decidedly become less of a big deal in the NFL over the past decade. And when you spend 6, 7, 8 roster spots on guys that are going to provide you special teams and pretty much that's it, then it makes it almost impossible to carry all 6 receivers. So if you're somebody who has neglected the special teams conversation, because my guy Adam Jones would say, oh, we're going to talk about the gunner again. If you neglect that part of the conversation, you're neglecting the trickle-down effect. You can't neglect the special teams conversation and how much emphasis is put in that phase of the game by Belichick as a personnel guy, and also want 6 receivers. It's part of the same conversation. The fact that you're putting so much into special teams is going to take away from other positions on this football team. That's the idea. Do you need 5 or 6? Brendan Schooler's another guy that, he was terrific last year. Do you need 6 or 7 dudes who can cover kicks and punts? Do you need 6 or 7 of those guys? Or can you survive with 4 or 5? I think you could survive with 4 or 5 in 2023. And if Kayshon Boutte ends up not sneaking through the waivers, he ends up getting picked by another team, and then let's say he's somewhat effective. If he catches even 30 balls, 40 balls, well, to me, there's more impact and there's more value in that than having a dude who's going to make some special teams tackles when you've got 6 or 7 other guys that are doing that already. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Nick, one thing I wanted to mention while we're talking about the receivers is just, I think, Douglas has popped so much, and Tyquan Thornton, when he's been on the field and he's running these crossers, and you just see the speed, like those guys stand out just so much because the Patriots don't have any speed. Like I'm extremely worried about the speed of their receiving core. We talk about like no big plays down the field other than jump balls. Some of it is the pressure, but some of it is these guys take a while to get down the field and they're not creating separation. So when you get a Pop Douglas out there and you get a Tyquan Thornton out there, you're like, they stand out so much because the Patriots are so slow. And so, I think they need these guys. I don't know what they're going to do with Pop Douglas come the regular season. Do I think he's going to be, in the game plan for the first 4 to 8 games? Probably not. He's probably going to get the Marcus Jones package when they think that's going to be useful against certain teams. he could probably contribute on special teams, so that might make him active, but I don't think he's going to have a huge role. But man, they just need a lot more explosiveness in this passing offense. And those are two guys that in theory can bring it to the team. And I think they really need it.
And they're going to need B.O.B. to scheme things. And,
Yep.
I've read a lot of pre-snap motion, thank God, is being implemented. Play action has been implemented a little bit more, thank God. We have an offense that looks like an NFL offense. That's a great thing. But it's going to depend on those kinds of things and some trickery, because you're not going to get that immediate separation from a lot of these guys. And look, I would love for Tyquan Thornton to pop, man. Trust me. No pun intended with Douglas. I feel like every time we say pop now, talking Patriots, it's going to become a bad joke. But I have no faith in Thornton at this point. I wish I could say I do. I just don't. He's had trouble staying on the field. He showed up, and some would say showed out a little bit last year in camp, had people excited, fell off the rails after that point, and he just hasn't done enough for me to believe in him right now. Theoretically, he's a great piece. Theoretically, he gets down the field and he can catch screen passes and take it to the house. He could do this, he could do that, he could do some jet sweep action, all that. Theoretically, he helps this team tremendously with his speed. But it's only a theory, because the practical usage of this guy, I don't know if they're going to have anything for him. I don't know how much he's going to play. I don't know if he can stay on the field. I hope he can, but I'm just if you are a believer at any level in Tyquan Thornton right now, it's because you have just chugged the quart of the Kool-Aid, because there is legitimately no reason from an objective standpoint and a logical standpoint to believe that Tyquan Thornton at this juncture is just going to walk onto the field and do something. Now, there's time. There's still plenty of time. He's got the preseason. He's got these joint practices. If he starts to show up the next couple of weeks, then, hey, we'll evolve the opinion and we'll talk about it at that point. But right now, I don't even know if Tyquan Thornton's family believes he can make a difference with this team this year. So hopefully he can. All right, before we get to the defense, a couple questions on that side of the ball. Let's talk about AG1.
AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I was tired of buying and taking a million different pills and vitamins. I wanted something quick, convenient, and packed with all the good and essential stuff I needed to get through the day. I drink AG1 first thing in the morning before starting my day, and it makes me feel like I could take on the world. Tastes great, gives me a little boost, and then later on is the big payoff. Off AG1, I'm grinding to get through the day, looking at the clock. On AG1, I'm primed and sharp, especially mentally, for my very long days, especially during training camp. Covering my nutritional basis for the day literally couldn't be any easier, which is why I trust AG1. I just mix one small scoop with water and drink it first thing in the morning. Done. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. Pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with high quality sourced ingredients. Win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Bedard. That's drinkag1.com/Bedard. Check it out.
All right, we talked offense. Let's jump to the defense. Greg, a guy you and I have talked about a lot, was inconsistent last year due to injury, had a really good rookie season. When he was on the field last year, he provided some production. Christian Barmore, the more that this camp has gone on and the closer we get to joint practices and preseason football, the more I hear his name coming up.
Yeah, I mean, look, he has really high moments. He, like the reverse hump against Cody Russi the other day. He has another decisive win in one-on-ones. His one-on-one record is 3 wins and 3 losses, which is actually like his win percentage is like 3rd on the team. But I'm waiting to see more in the joint practices. I wouldn't say that Barmore's, dominating like I would hope, but yeah, he's certainly been impactful. I mean, he has been. I'm just not ready to say like he's taking a huge leap. I think he will take a leap this year. I just want him to be on the field because that dude can change so many things for the Patriots in terms of their pass rush by being out there and being healthy. A good start for him. I'm really looking forward to seeing him against the Packers and the Titans. And I think, we'll get our answers on, where he is in terms of, is he ready to be a star in this league or not?
Yeah, I had a text exchange last night with friend of the pod, Evan Cohen. Congratulations to Evan, by the way, who sounds like he's on some bigger and better things going to reportedly the ESPN morning show soon. And he was texting me about the guys that need extensions. And I said, I need to see more from Barmore. And, it's the flashes. You see the flashes when everybody is just almost stunned by what this guy can do athletically at his size. But there's still like flashes. If he can consistently bring that, man, he could be a special player. I hope he finds that. Rest of the defensive line. Obviously, a story this week, Trey Flowers signs. He's been somebody who hasn't been able to stay on the field, unfortunately, for the last 3 or 4 seasons, split between Detroit and Miami. He is now being brought in. What do you make of that move? And could this be a, hey, young man, get underneath my learning tree for guys like Keon White, more than somebody who's actually going to be leaned upon to produce for this defensive line once the season kicks off?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're of similar mindset on this, Nick, and I just, I think these guys, we need to get them in a different setting because I think I've been underwhelmed with the camp overall in terms of what they've been able to do. But these like joint sessions that are coming up, they will kick it up a notch, and I think we'll start to get a lot more answers on this team and where they sort of slate in the AFC East, because I'm just looking off Twitter, the Dolphins had trouble on offense today protecting against, I think it was the Falcons that they had joint practice with. So, I think there's room for the Patriots to do something, but we need to start getting some answers on these guys.
Yeah. Let's just look at the secondary quickly before we bid everybody adieu. Getting ready for the first preseason game tomorrow night at Gillette against the Texans, obviously. CJ Stroud will be starting that game for Houston. That's an interesting thing. Secondary, first question. How badly does this team need Jack Jones to stay on the up and up and, not walk into Logan Airport with guns and or not just storm off the field when he's a little upset?
Looks like they need him pretty badly, Nick, much to my chagrin, because I don't think the way he's conducted himself in the last 6 months, I don't think it's any way to conduct yourself as a professional football player, including storming off the field the other day. I'm hoping, I don't know the entire story. I thought that he got kicked off to blow off steam. That would be okay and understandable. Somewhat less for a 25-year-old second-year player. He's not a 21-year-old young player in this league. If he just left of his own volition and basically quit on his team, I don't understand why they keep entertaining this, and there's no repercussions, nothing. The next day he was out there, he was getting starting reps. Yesterday he got all sorts of starting reps. I think it's a privilege to play in the National Football League. I don't care how talented you think you are. It is a privilege, and you need to do the right things to play in the National Football League and play for the New England Patriots. And I don't think Jack Jones has done any of the correct things in the past 6 months. So I've been dismayed by that. But look, the bottom line is they need him because they're not good enough. John Jones has been out with injury. That's fine. He's still not an outside guy. Christian Gonzalez, early returns are good. He looks good. But as far as another boundary guy, they don't have another boundary guy. You can put John Jones out there, but he got exposed last year. Even if Gonzalez turns out to be a number 1 and John Jones slots down to number 2, it's still not good enough. It's got to be Jack Jones. He's their only option. They have to keep doing it this way. I don't like it, but that's the way that it is. And, he has looked good. He's got really good ball skills. He closes really early, he closes really well on the ball, as we've seen. He gets great jumps on the ball. He's sticky in coverage. He's got good ball skills. The kid is talented. I just wish he'd get his head on straight. Because I don't know how this gets any better if he's just allowed to keep doing whatever it is he wants to do, which that's the way it appears from where I've been sitting.
2 more questions. Safety. How do we feel about Devin McCourty and how the Patriots are going to replace him at free safety there? And really how all of the safeties, it feels like they have 15 on this team, but how are they all being situated back there? And do you feel confident on the back end?
Again, this is going to be another position that we'll know a lot more about from the joint practices, where they don't know sort of what the other offense is running. There are more dangerous people that they have to account for. I wouldn't say it's been bad. I mean, it seems like they've been rotating guys between Phillips, Duggar, and Jalen Mills at free safety. I think we might even see some Sean Wade at free safety tomorrow night, maybe in the second half. We saw some reps there yesterday. It hasn't been bad. I don't think it's been great. But again, they're going up against an offense that is challenged to make big plays down the middle of the field. There haven't been a whole lot of seam plays where I think guys like Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki and even Juju are going to make their living this year. We just haven't seen it at this point, so it's been hard to tell, sort of what the state of affairs are at free safety, but I'm looking forward to getting answers in Green Bay and Nashville.
Last question. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm really excited about the rookie class and what I'm reading. It seems like the Patriots might have hit on several guys. We haven't even talked about Marte Mapu. Obviously, Keon White has had flashes. Gonzalez, as you just mentioned, looks good. Special teams guys, from what I've read, Barringer just hits bombs.
Yep.
Looks like Ryland is likely going to beat out Folk for the kicker position. So you start to look at this rookie class, and you feel pretty damn good about it so far. But tomorrow night, your top 2 or 3 things that you're going to be looking for. We all know that preseason football is not nearly as important as it used to be, and it wasn't that important to begin with. But really 2 or 3 things that you think fans should be looking for and might enjoy during tomorrow night's game.
Well, I would say definitely the offensive line. I think will see. Well, actually, no, we won't see. I don't think we're going to see Riley Reif tomorrow night, but we will see Connor McDermott. How does he look? I really want to see the young guys on the interior. Jake Andrews, City So, Antonio Mafi. I want to see how those guys do in game action, even if it's against the backups. I think that will be, a good thing to see. Mapu won't be out there since he's still in the red jersey. I do want to see some of the younger cornerbacks, whether it's Isaiah Bolden, who was their last pick in this year's draft, who has definitely flashed at times in camp. Amir Speed was their last 6th round pick, really tall dude. I haven't seen him. I haven't witnessed too much of him at cornerback, but I assume he's going to get time there. I want to see a guy like, what does Booty do in the preseason games? If he's really going to make a move on a roster spot on this team, he and Pop Douglas should, be able to make plays against these reserves from other teams. So, and the other thing is, it sounds like CJ Stroud is going to be out there for the Texans. Interested to see him, and also, how the defense defends him. We know how much trouble they have with athletic quarterbacks. Again, they're going to be very vanilla in what they do on defense. It's not going to be a whole lot of the game plan stuff. But it's just like individual stuff. I can't wait to get into the film come, Friday, probably midday, and, give everybody my breakdown on what I see sort of individually. That's what you're looking for. Individual stuff. Do they look like they belong? Are they winning most of their battles? We won't see any scheme stuff in these games.
I can't wait. We're getting closer. Tomorrow night, Gillette Stadium, Texans, Patriots, preseason game number 1. This episode brought to you by FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Also, AG1, a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients to support whole body health in one delicious daily drink. He's Greg. I'm Nick. We're actually both in the state of Massachusetts in the Eastern time zone now. Very excited for that. Everybody enjoy the football tomorrow night. Of course, we'll recap it. We'll have all the news for you as well. Until next time, be good, be safe, and be healthy.